We're live on the air, so let's go ahead and start the show. All right, welcome to this week's edition of the Unknown Files Show. Outdoors Dan here. Show is brought to you in part by our good friends out of Revelton Spirits. Of course, I'm talking about Revelton Distillery down in Osceola, Iowa. They are the official spirit of the Unknown Files Show. Hope everyone's having a great Wednesday night. We got a fun show for you. We're going to be talking with a gentleman from Alberta tonight. His name is John Towton. I hope I'm saying that right. I'll ask him here in a second. And we're going to be talking about wild calls of the wild in Alberta. We'll get into that here on the Outdoor Call Radio Network. So thanks for everybody listening online and also following us on Facebook as well. Why is that plugged in? That's not plugged in. Let me get here. John, how you doing tonight?
Not too bad. How about you, Dan?
You know what? I'm doing okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. How's things in Alberta?
Actually, I got to say, you keep saying Alberta, but it's Manitoba.
Oh, you're in Manitoba.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I sit corrected.
That's all right.
Tell everybody about, before we get going, Big Woods Wilderness Outfitters. Tell everybody about that real quick.
Yeah, that Big Woods Wilderness Outfitters is a company that I purchased going back to 2015. It's always been a dream of mine to own I love bear hunting. I love all hunting, but I really got a passion for bear hunting. And summer 2014, I was not happy in the job I was doing. My wife came home from work. I was sitting in this is a great story right here. She came home from work and I have been doing research about things to do, and my goodness, I came across this business for sale. Tammy came in and she came in the backyard. She said, "Oh, you're already in the backyard?" I said, "Yeah, I got a glass here. We were having some wine." And I said, she sat down, she said, "How was your day?" And I said, "Same as every day." And I said, "How about you?" So she told me about her day. And then I looked at her and I said, "Do you trust me?" And she was like, "Of course I trust you." And then I brought out, Tammy is always a good one for visualizing with a list. So I had a list of pros and cons about buying this bear business. And she listened to me because I thought it through and I wrote it all out. And I'll never forget her taking a sip of that glass of wine and turned and looked at me and said, "Do it." So we went we borrowed a lot to get it, but it was well worth it. And things are rolling now and just loving life. Couldn't be happier.
That's exciting. I love bear hunting. I don't think I've ever been hunting in Manitoba. I've been to Ontario and Alberta a few times. Hey, Parker. Hey, Jeff. Parker, how you doing? Jeff in New York. We appreciate you listening. Beautiful country up there, though, John. You guys got it going on for sure.
Yeah, right there. Like we're right in the Canadian Shield here in Manitoba, and I'm on the eastern side of the province, and so the bears are plentiful. We got some pretty good color phase also. I mean, this spring, just to give you an example, we had 21 hunters in camp. We got 20 bears. I'm not going to say the name of the guy who didn't shoot a bear because he was looking at 300. He looked at about 4 300-pounders, and didn't realize he was looking at big bears. And I kept looking at those videos. And then finally I said, "Hey, these are not grizzlies. Like they're black bears, 300 pounds with your bow. You're putting yourself in that Pope and Young class." So, on Friday, he says, "Oh, I'm going to shoot the first one I see like that." And of course, the only night of the week, he never saw a bear Friday night. But every other night, like he was seeing 6 bears a night, 7 bears a night. Yeah, we went 20 for 21 bears this spring, and that's standard for us. Like you never want to say 100%, but I'm there with that. I mean, the bear hunting up here is phenomenal.
Yeah, you guys definitely got some great bear action up there. That's for sure. Chris in Pennsylvania, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you again. And Jimmy Wallace down in Missouri, thank you for listening. Hi, Anita Joe in Iowa. Good to hear you tonight as well, and everybody listening on the app as well. Thank you for that. So I got a call from my buddy Kurt at Working Class Bow Hunters, and I go, Kurt, John, I don't know if Kurt told you the story on this, but I get a lot of guff about doing this show from all of my buddies, and it's just come on, man. Hey, listen, I got people all over the country listening to this thing. It's a fun show to do, And anyway, so he goes, "Hey, I got a guy I need you to talk to. We just bear hunted with him, and he's heard some crazy stuff going on. And hey, John, do you have the app playing in your office or anything?
You mean your app?
Yeah.
Uh, I've got my phone right beside me. I can get whatever you want on here.
No, no, no. I don't want you to play it. I'm getting a little bit of feedback. That's why I was asking
Oh,
if you had
no,
anything
no,
open. Okay.
no, I don't have anything open. No.
Okay, you're good. So I said, "Well, what's he got?" And he goes, "Well, he's actually heard somebody that they don't know who it is or what it is." And I go, "Well, that's just right perfect for the Unknown Files show." So John was very gracious when I called him, and we got him set up and everything. So I'm 60, John, and you look you're in almost in the same neighborhood, late 50s.
55.
55,
55,
yeah.
yeah.
So you and I are relatively close in age. So we grew up watching Leonard Nimoy and Unknown Files and mystery, what was Unsolved Mysteries and all that stuff. So we grew up
Yep.
with things running around people couldn't explain, and I've always had a fascination with it. But I've never personally, I've been bow hunting 35, 36 years, and I've never seen or heard anything I honestly couldn't justify. But it would be neat to see something, but you actually had some stuff happen. Tell everybody about how all this started.
Well, how this started was I'll tell you what just happened, then I'll tell you going back a few years here is we're at bear camp early spring. I got my cook Marlene. She sleeps crazy. She sleeps a few hours a night, a few hours in the day, and she's cooking all the time and baking. So she's up at about 2:30 in the morning. She's having a cigarette outside, and she's got her phone because she's looking at her phone. And all of a sudden, this sound that Kurt sent you, or that I sent you for you to listen to, just started bellowing. She said it was in the bush right beside the cabin, and all she could do was take her phone and hit the video record because on that, if you ever hear that sound, that's my truck in the background. And she just hit video record, and this thing was screaming. It's like a screaming, howling, and seems to, I don't know, finish off into a moan or something. And she played that for me. And when I heard it, I was like, "Oh my God, Marlene!" I said, I heard that same sound 700 miles north of here, moose hunting with my cousin Miguel and my uncle Guy at 2 o'clock in the morning. And that woke us up. And so we're going back 12 years ago. So I was 43. And same as me, I'm in the bush. By this time in my life, at 43, I've been charged by bears. I was even swatted once in the leg. Didn't cut me, just a love tap. And lots of encounters with animals. And this thing 12 years ago, when it bellowed, it woke us all up in camp. It was right beside our camp. And my cousin Miguel goes to me after it finished. He goes like, This is exactly how the conversation went. He was like, "You awake?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Did you hear that?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Should we go inside and look?" I went, "Nope." we, we just stayed in that tent. We talked about it with my uncle the next day, and we had never heard it before. And I mean, I had some people say, like, not some people. I said maybe it's a cougar or something. Like we do have some cougars in Manitoba, but I've never heard one growl or roar or anything like that. But some people that have heard cougars said that that's not a cougar. So I really don't know. It is something, well, as my dad would have said, something not of this earth, but obviously it's of this earth. It's in the bush. And you're in the middle of nowhere here where there's nobody in the bush playing a game on you, especially that Grand Rapids one. We were 650 miles north, 10 miles down a swamp road, and this was at 2 o'clock in the morning. And we'd have heard any truck, quad, anything coming up. I mean, this is it, and you kind of put it out of your mind and you forget about it until you hear this again just this spring further south here, which that sound is 2 hours north of Winnipeg, that which is the capital of Manitoba. That's not that far. And that thing just echoed.
Yeah. Now I don't have the one John sent me and loaded in the system. Mark Parker is actually watching us from Michigan tonight. Hi, Mark. Good to see you. Mark is a fellow bow hunter, John, and he actually saw a Bigfoot elk hunting in Oregon, and he was in a documentary called Flash of Beauty, a national documentary. So
Okay.
his buddy Daryl Adams, Mark and Daryl were Actually, they were trying to investigate Bigfoot. They actually had tons of encounters on their property. And Daryl, when I talk to these guys, and I can usually, I've got a BS sniffer. I've got a pretty good BS sniffer, and I believe what they tell me. I can tell when somebody's trying to pull my leg and they're not. And Jeff says we appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience, John. Thanks, Jeff. Uh,
Thank you.
yeah.
That's
So
what you're always afraid of, is people are going to think you're BSing. But I got that on
yeah.
video.
Well, this is something Daryl sent me. I'm gonna play it over the air here. Hang on, real quick. I'm gonna cut the mics. Hang on, real quick. Did you hear that, John?
Yeah, I mean the beginning of it is a little longer than what Marlene got, and I
Yeah.
think maybe that's because she had to get her phone on.
Yeah.
But that, especially the end part, like I was wondering, oh, it sounds, but is that end gonna
Well,
howl off like that?
that's what Daryl recorded in Oregon. So that sounds really really close to what you sent me.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that is wow.
Yeah. So in your area, I mean, you're an outfitter, you're a bear guide. I mean, you're talking to the
Yeah.
grocery stores, you're talking to the sporting goods stores. I mean, are you hearing stories up there? Or are people sharing? Or are they hesitant to talk about it?
Oh, you got people, when people hear something, they'll talk. But I think there's some people old school, it's like, I don't know what that is. People that don't want to believe, they don't want to talk about it. But even for me, 12 years ago when I heard that, it was like when we were coming home, we told a couple of people, and we were just laughed at. They were thinking we're making this up, and we're like, there's no way, like that's not made up. And now to get this again now, and it's on film. I shouldn't say on film. It's not record. It's
It's on
on
video.
audio.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that it's almost, you feel vindicated. Like, here's some proof. This is
Yeah.
exactly what we heard. What woke us up 12 years ago.
Yeah. Roger said he's putting in some overtime in New York. There you go, buddy. Chris said that's crazy. And Jeff said that would make your hair stand up on the back of your neck. And he's a trapper, John. So,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
he's right, because it sure did.
Yeah. So, have you guys had a chance to go out and look? Did you ever go look in the area to see if you could find tracks or anything?
To be 100% honest, when Marlene played it for me the next day, it's the beginning of my bear season. I'm super busy with baiting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, I never had a chance to go look for, and to be honest with you, kind of never thought about it, because had I have done a show like this before, that say something like this happens next year, I'm gonna go look, and I'll be out there again. I'll be out there again in the fall as things are starting to cool off at the end of September, and but just the way it sounds, and you got to understand the terrain around the lodge, a lot of low areas, a lot of swampy. If something did make a big track, you you
Yeah. With
you
that
you
mud,
you'll find it.
do you have muskeg up there? They call that.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's like walking on a sponge. That drove me nuts when I was moose hunting a couple years ago up there. It's not, and I had a bad knee and stuff too. It was not a lot of fun carrying all that camera gear
yeah,
around in that. But I mean, that's going to be kind of hard to find. You're going to have to get on some creek banks or river banks or something.
yeah,
It's going to be hard for you to find something up there.
yeah. And that's one of the things that it is. And the terrain and bush up here, like I've come down, I've done some trade shows down in Indianapolis. I go to the Indianapolis trade show every year,
Hmm.
and as you're driving, you're seeing the wilderness down there, like we call it the bush. And I mean, I see these big trees. I'm like, oh, I can see forever through these trees, kind of thing. You come up here and you see that brush. I mean, if we're talking Bigfoot, I'm not kidding. You could probably have a Bigfoot standing as it's getting dark, 6 feet in front of you in all these willows, and it just gets so dark. It gets so dark. I
Yeah,
mean, that's one
the
of the things.
canopy's so thick.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I have for picking bear baits. I mean, bear hunting isn't just oh, here, this looks like a good spot. I'm just going to throw my bait here and the bears will come. If they don't feel safe, they're not going to come till late at night. So one of the things I like to look for is water, and an area that, hey, when we're getting dark here at 10 o'clock in the evening, it's already dark at 9:30 or 9. The bears start coming in early, and the bigger ones feel safer. And if I'm a Bigfoot and no one's really ever, it's tough to get that proof. But as they say, no one's really seen one. That's the kind of stuff that I'm living in.
Well, there's thousands and thousands of pictures and videos from trail cameras and stuff. I think 99. I think the majority of them are probably faked, to be honest with you,
Yeah,
or either
yeah,
CGI or something. But there's a couple out there that's just like, hmm. I've talked to a couple buddies of mine that they said that the military has got infrared night vision in Apache helicopters. They've seen them in the woods, and they got documentation of that, but you'll never see it. That's
no,
classified and stuff. So I've heard that from a couple of people. I won't say who, but I don't know.
yeah,
I love I've always loved the lore and the stories, and like I said, my buddies are always giving me grief. Oh, Mark, a lot of it is fake photos. Mark said, and Mark's seen one. But there's hundreds of thousands of people that have seen them in the last 50 years,
yeah,
and they all can't be. You're a bear hunter, so if you told me, hey, what I saw was not a bear, I would
yeah,
believe you, because if I know in my heart, I've shot 10 bears with my bow over the years. And I know what a bear looks like. And I know what a bear sounds like. Bluff charging, popping their jaws. I've had the
yeah,
gambit. I've had all the gambits at me. Hunting bears over the years. But if I heard or seen something personally, I could say that wasn't a bear, and I know what a bear sounds like. It's crazy. You get a 300 or 400 pound bear, they can walk in and be underneath your stand, and you might not even hear them come in. The way they walk on the flats of their paws, the sole of their paws, they're
yeah.
so quiet coming in. They're stealthy.
Well, it's pads. They're designed to float on top of branches and muffled grass and everything like that to stay quiet to catch up on their prey. And it makes you wonder in a way, does maybe Bigfoot have pads? I have no idea because you would be very quiet if you have that.
Well, when I had Dr. Jeff Muldrum on, now he's an anthropologist at Idaho State University, and he actually has footprints, castings, and stuff going back to the 40s and the 50s. And he said, here you can see the toes broke here. These weren't just wooden pieces cut out. And he goes, here's the thing most people don't understand, Dan. It to get that far down in the ground, the impression, you're going to have to weigh several hundred pounds. If it was a guy that weighed 200 pounds with a wood something strapped on his boot, you're going to maybe sink about that much. You're not going to sink that far down in the ground. And when I talk to somebody like that, John, I got to scratch my head, because it's like, well, how do you disprove that, or how do you you know what I'm saying? It just
Yeah,
some of the
I do.
stuff, it's kind of crazy. Doug says they're on Devil's Red Barn Lake, right? The Bite right now. Go get them, Doug. I hope you catch a bunch of them. Chris says there were videos of you on YouTube with the thermal drone footage of suspected Sasquatch in Washington State. I'll have to check that out. That's neat.
Yeah,
We're Yet you can hear a squirrel at 50 yards. Yeah, that's the loudest critter in the woods, is a squirrel.
you got that right.
Yeah,
You got that right.
they're just kind of crazy. It's all right.
And just like a lot of people, and there's some people out there that might be skeptics may think like, oh, this could be a big bear standing up. Just to give you all anyone that doesn't know this, if you're talking a 6 foot bear, so that's from tail to nose. When he stands up in his legs, yeah, you can add another 2 feet, so he might stand 8 feet tall. But those pads, and anyone who shot a bear, go and measure for yourself. If the bear's a 6 foot bear, that back pad is only 6 inches long.
Right,
And you think about a man who stands 5'10", he's got 10-inch feet. You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
So that's where we have bigger feet because we're always walking upright.
So what kind
I
of
mean,
what kind of other stories have you heard from people in your area? Has anybody came out and said, "I've seen something and I don't know what it is"?
yeah, I've got an old friend of mine from Long Lake, which is up in the area where I bear hunt, and I had actually forgotten about this story. And when we were talking about this Bigfoot, the sound that I got in the spring, I got my cousins. We all grew up at Long Lake, which is just basically an hour north of Bird Lake, where we heard the sound this spring. And one of my cousins had reminded me of a friend of ours. He was with his dad. He was 16, which would have made me about 14 at the time. And there had been talk. There was a little mining town called Bassett, and I could probably go to Bassett and talk to people, some elders up there, like that are my age or in their 80s. They'd have stories because there was lots of talk about people seeing Bigfoot around Bassett. Of course, who's believing this, right? But there is an area where there was an old airport where people could fly in, and had to be 20 feet wide. Think about two trucks passing each other. So it was the widest spots on the road. And John was driving his dad's old Jeep Cherokee Chief. I'll never forget that truck. And he was driving. He had 16. He was learning, got his permit. And they're driving in the headlights. And up ahead in the high beams, John said something came out of the bush going from right to left. And he said, and it took 2 steps. It was running, but it was 2 steps in that road and across and tall. Like he said, it had to be 9, 10 feet tall. And John said to his dad, like he said, there was nothing to say at first. There was nothing. We were just driving. And he said he just turned around to his dad and went like, "Did you see that?" And his dad just said, "Don't stop. Just keep going." And it did kind of it shook everybody up because you could literally see the fear in Mr. White, like George White, in his face. Like he was like, "I've never seen anything like that before in my life." You could tell that they saw something. But
So could they rule out a moose?
yeah, easy. Not a moose.
Not a moose.
Not a moose.
Because
Not a
that's the
moose and
only
not a bear.
animal. That'd be the only animal up your way. Now you're in. Do they have grizzlies in Manitoba?
No, no. Way up north, where the bear and grizzly are starting to come back, but they're not down south like this. And they weren't back. They weren't in Manitoba like 40 years ago.
So
So
the only other animal up there that I would think would have that kind of a gait or that kind of would be a moose. You know.
yes, but I know George White was a moose hunter. John and I both became moose hunters. You'd know the difference between something galloping and just like a step,
Yeah.
like a big tall person.
Yeah. And I'm John. I'm just
Yeah, no,
rationalizing.
no.
Yeah. I'm just.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. When I was up in Alberta moose hunting, that was my first time ever moose hunting. And like I've been bow hunting for. You can tell behind me. I've been bow hunting for a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
So it's just I went up with a buddy of mine, and him and I were the guide were splitting the name of the business, or the guy that owns the business was the main guide, and I really couldn't walk real well because of my knee, so he put me up on a river system, and these moose beds were all over, John. It was awesome. I mean, it was just beautiful
yeah,
country, and I got to see some moose, and but they weren't coming close enough to get an arrow shot. And anyway, so he's trying to teach me how to moose call, and
yeah,
I'm the world's first one to admit this, that I am probably the world's worst moose caller, because he goes, you got to be real nasal, you know,
yeah,
I can't do it, but he got to he came up. I was sitting by myself. I had the camera, and I'm on a trail, and there's these moose beds. Now Kent told me there were grizzly up in that area in Alberta.
yeah. There are. Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm sitting there going, now how dumb is this? I don't have a gun because Alberta won't let you bring a gun in, a handgun. So I'm here by myself. I've got my bow and my knife. I'm on a game trail in a moose bed by myself, and then I hear crack. I start hearing brush popping, right? So I'm going, well, that could be a bear. It could be a
yep,
moose, you know. So I'm just sitting there, and I turn the camera on, and then about 5 minutes later, I'd hear another pop. I heard something coming, so I got my angle out, I grabbed my bow, and I'm just sitting there, John. I'm as still as I can because my shot's going to be at 5 yards, right? So I'm
yeah,
just sitting. Then out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement, and I just sat there and I go, "Please don't be a grizzly. Please don't be a grizzly." And all
yeah.
of a sudden, he goes, "It was my guide." I said, "You know
Oh,
better than that. You should have whistled back there." You know?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I about had a stroke, man. It just I was because it's exhilarating because
yeah,
you don't know what's coming. But man, and then my buddy who was across the river said there was a big moose, but I guess the wind was swirling and he caught my wind. I should have brought my ozonics with me, and I forgot to do it.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
Well,
I thought I had the wind played right, but them moose, man, they're not dumb. You know,
no.
Yeah.
They're smart. They know. Like that's the one where your buddy was, your guide was catching up on you. I had a similar one like that in the Grand Rapids area where we heard the Bigfoot there 12 years ago. It was maybe the year before, and same deal. I was in a great spot, lots of sign, lots of cow sign. So I was down in some tall grasses, about 3 feet high, and I was sitting down in there, and I'm calling, and I am calling and calling, acting like a cow. And all of a sudden, back behind this big beaver pond, I hear a wolf howl. And I was like, "Ooh!" Like hunting with rifles back then, and I was like, "Oh, I'll take a wolf, no problem." And so I'm
Yeah.
watching the backside of that. I'm watching the backside of that beaver pond, and then uh, I do it nothing for a while. Then I do a couple more cow calls, and so it was about half an hour later. I get another wolf call. This one's at the front of the beaver pond, and then I sat there quiet, nothing, and I'm not kidding. 20 minutes later, I get another wolf call. I think the thing was about 30 yards behind me, and I was like, I'm being surrounded by a pack of wolves. They
Yeah.
think I'm a moose, and it's getting dark. I know I got my rifle, but I'm not kidding you. I stood up and I had my gun all loaded, ready to go, and I started singing and I was walking back to my three wheeler.
Hey, I've done that before, or whistle anyway, you know? So
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
blame you a bit. All right, hey John, did I say your name right? Towden?
yeah. It's actually it's French. It's tout temps, tout
Toutant.
temps. That's it.
Toutant.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like that. That's awesome, man. Jean Toutant. There we
There you
go.
go. That's it.
Yeah, Big Woods Wilderness Outfitters. John, hang on. I'm going to take a real quick break. Mark Parker says now Mark's the one that was in that national film. He says I would
Okay.
love to check out his area and bear hunt while I'm there. Mark, I'll have John give out his website address. Well, go ahead and do it now, John. What's your website?
Sure. My website is it's obviously www.bigwoodshunting.com.
There you go, Mark. BigWoodsHunting.com. Go check that out. Hi, Jake Pike. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Jake's here in Iowa. All right, you guys hang on. Let me take a real quick break and get some bills paid, and we'll be back in a couple minutes. This won't be a very long break, so hang on, and we'll be right back.
Break your bow setup. You want a string and cable that does not stretch and is reliable, so when your bow is tuned, it stays that way. You need gas bow strings. They're stable, consistent, and reliable strings and cables that come with a 1-year warranty. Gas bow strings, made in Clay City, Kentucky, and family operated. So next time you order a new bow or replace your strings and cables, try gas bow strings and shoot with confidence. Check them out at your local dealer or online at gasbowstrings.com.
Let's talk about a story, an Iowa story about a dream that took several years to come true in Osceola, Iowa. It's the story of Revelton Distilling Company. These fine distilled whiskeys, gins, and vodkas were born from the labor of Rob and Christina Taylor. It's amazing hearing the customers' descriptions of how unique each bottle looks and how each spirit tastes and satisfies with every sip. From the honey whiskey to the whiskey and cream, or the robust mulberry gin, American gin, or vodkas. Revelton Distilling visitors can't believe the flavor profiles the mixologists are creating at the distillery every day. Revelton Distillery is open Wednesday through Sunday in Osceola. They're located at 1400 West Clay Street, right off I-35. Revelton Distillery fine spirits are also available at your local grocery and other retailers around Iowa. Please check them out online at reveltondistillery.com or visit them at the distillery. If it's time to celebrate or just time to sit back and unwind, well, then it's time for a Revelton moment.
OnX Hunt helps hunters be more successful in the field each season, with maps of all public and private land and a fully functional GPS without service. The app, trusted by over 6 million users, has just released a bunch of new features to help you on your next hunt. New aerial imagery options like leaf off, recent imagery updated every 2 weeks with historic look back, and imagery on demand. On top of that, OnX is reinventing the trail camera market by syncing your hunt app with multiple cell camera manufacturers and helping to organize and analyze your photos. You can also now view your maps in Dash when driving to your next hunting location. These are just a few of the many updates OnX has for this hunting season. Try OnX Hunt free for 7 days or go to onxmaps.com/hunt and use code X for 20% off your new OnX Hunt membership. Try OnX Hunt free for 7 days or go to onxmaps.com/hunt and use code X for 20% off your new OnX Hunt membership.
All right, welcome back to the Unknown Files. Outdoors Dan here. We're here with John Toutant from our friends up there at Big Woods Wilderness Outfitters, and we're just talking a little bit about the big guy tonight. So we're having a little fun. If you got questions, we are live streaming on the Messenger. Thank you to Imperial RV Center for helping us with the live stream. Jeff says good stuff. Hey, Tony Casey, great show tonight, Dan. Thank you, Tony. Thank you. That's very kind of you. So, John, I gotta ask. You gotta be getting ready to go moose hunting or something. What's coming up first? Moose, bear, what?
Coming up for me is moose, actually. Got drawn for moose, so we're heading out for moose on September the 12th. Go moose hunt for 4 or 5 days. We got a pretty good spot, so we're, nothing's ever for sure, but we're pretty confident. And then right after that, I'm into the fall bear. I got 9 hunters this fall. Let's say it was a sold out year. Next year, bear hunting, same thing. It looks like I got limited spots left. I mean, I've got up here in Manitoba, when it comes to hunting, we're allocated a certain amount of bears for certain areas of the province. And I can't just go anywhere I want in this province. So my area, which is basically 700 square miles, I'm only allowed to kill 31 bears a year. And no other outfitter can come into my area. And there's thousands of bears in my area. So I mean, that's why we do so well, and we get the quality of bears. Big, pass on those little ones. You're gonna see a big one later.
Yeah, well, we listen. Bear meat's very good too. That's a lot of
Yeah.
people don't understand how, and it's good conservation too. So when the working class boys were up there, did they? I know. Well, when you're hunting with Doug, I imagine everything's kind of a little of a mystery. But I mean, how'd the boys do? Did they hear anything? Did they hear any squatch, any wood knocks or anything while they were up there?
No, well, one of the guys, John, he was in the stand, and he got a little freaked out because he heard some wolves howling, and he's
Yeah.
not wasn't that far away from the trail. And he texted me, "Hey, I got some wolves howling." I said, "Well," I said, "I'm going to pick so and so. Just walk back out. I'll meet you there." And he was all like, "Walk out?" And I was like, "Wow!" And I got to remember that when you're not used to it, like me, I gotta remember, I gotta look after everyone a little bit more, and just not take for granted that they'll just get down and walk out. So
Well,
it's not a big deal, but
yeah, well, it can't. Listen, wolves are they're not. It's not like your puppy dog. I had a friend of mine was hunting in Minnesota, and he ran an outfitting business, and he had a guy in a stand, and he got surrounded by about 7 8 wolves, and he got so shook up, John. When he got back to the lodge, he packed all his stuff up and went home. He left. He
well,
goes, I'm not going back out there.
I had a group of hunters out here last year, not last fall, but the fall before, or was it last fall? No, it was last fall. I'm sorry. From Indianapolis. They booked their hunt with me when I was down at the show, and they had shot their bears, and were getting some wolves at the same time. We ended up getting 2 wolves that week, and the one young guy, I was driving him to a stand, and earlier, like 2 days before, we had taken a wolf, and it was not a big one. It was a juvenile, but like I said, that wolf is too young to be on its own. He's out of a pack. There's a pack in the area, so I told him, like, look, around 6 o'clock, because when I say 6 o'clock now, this is the fall. It's dark now at 6:30 in September, where in May we don't get dark till 10:30. That's how our light goes here, right? So I said, 6 o'clock, starting to get dark. I said, give a couple of howls, see what happens. And he was laughing. I said, I'm not kidding, just do it. So at 6 o'clock, he does a howl. I'm coming up the trail at 6:20. And when I stop the bike and I'm getting off to come in, he yells from the bush. He's like, John, there's wolves everywhere. There's wolves everywhere. He said, be careful coming in to get me. He wasn't getting down. And then I said, like, I read it. I said, did you shoot one? And he goes, well, I shot at 3 that ran right past me. I said, you get one? And he was like, I don't think so. It turns out he didn't. But when I got in there, he was all like, John, they were howling as you were coming up the trail. He said, like, they're right here. They're like 20 yards in the bush. I just can't see them, again, because of the thickness of this cover. And he had gotten down, and I said to him, look, we got about 3 minutes of legal light here. Get back up there. I said, I'll get up. I'll stand on the ladder. I said, I'll howl. And he got up. He had his rifle, and I howled, and all around us, must have been about 6 of them, just lit up howling. And he was in that tree, and I was like, "Well, get ready." I said, "Something's going to come through for sure." And he was, and then all of a sudden, it's tree's about this big. We got to stand in there, and all of a sudden, that whole tree just started shaking. I looked at him. He was shaking. I was like, okay, we won't get a good shot away. And he was scared. And I was like, all right, let's get out of here. But
Yeah, I'm
getting those
not
wolves
laughing.
howling is something.
Yeah, I'm not laughing at him. I mean, it can be an experience, that's for sure. Jeff wants to know, do you do guided wolf hunts too?
The wolf comes with a bear hunt. I do it for free. How it is, come up for a bear hunt, and because you can only wolf hunt in the fall time. So if you come up for a bear hunt in the fall, if you see a wolf, you can you can take them, and I don't charge any extra for that. And as far as the bear the way it works though is if you shoot your bear before your wolf, your hunt is done. So I get a lot of guys come out and be like, "Well, I'm not going to shoot a bear till like Thursday or something like that. I want to go 3 good days of bear hunting or of wolf hunting, and then we set it up. Because in the fall they're eating anything at this time. So I'm putting meat, I'm putting candy, I'm putting corn. And the wolves come in for all of that also. So
Yeah.
I mean, we get wolves right in the baits. So yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, thanks for watching tonight. Appreciate you. Tell everybody back in Pennsylvania I said hi. Thank you for that. So, all right, as far as the big fella goes, John, I mean, what do you now you've had the screaming, and then you had your encounters a long time ago. I mean, you guys are out in the bush a lot. I mean, what do you
Well,
what's next?
there's sometimes I'll tell you like what's next is I'm going to be watching a lot more for anything that is out of that is just out of place that's maybe too heavy to move or something like that because I really am starting to believe more than I did, and I did believe in Bigfoot. You could ask my wife and kids. I always said there's a Bigfoot out there. I do believe that 100%. And
You need to get Kurt to pony up for a FLIR unit so you can have the working class bow hunter swatch cam, and then that way, if you can see in the dark and stuff and see what's
yeah,
out there.
it'd be interesting is if I thought the bears wouldn't eat it, it'd be interesting to put a camera out and leave it sit all summer. I got a spot where I'm thinking if there's anything around, something would pass through here, and just leave the camera alone all summer, batteries and everything, and just check it in the fall.
Well, you can get you a Tacticam with a bear guard on it, and they won't be able to eat it.
Yeah,
I can't promise you they won't tear it off the tree, but
yeah, I know they'll tear it off the tree for
yeah, I
sure.
mean
Yeah,
bears will do a lot of bears are crazy. I've had them tear my camera arm off, and I mean
yeah.
I've walked in on a bear stand and actually had a bear sitting in my stand. I've had them climb up the ladder after me. They'll do a lot of stuff. I've had them jump in the boat when we put the boat down there, and you could hear something clanging, banging around, and we had to get down and go chase the bear out of the boat.
I had a bear in a bait that I call Swampy this spring that I actually smacked on the butt. I was in there, I was baiting up, and I hear click, click, click. So I look at the stand right away, thinking that there's a bear in the stand. Nothing in there. Then I keep baiting, and I'm filling out the barrel, and I can hear click, 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 click. And I look in the tree right beside this tree is here, the other tree is right here, and I look up this tree, and here's a real big bear, maybe about 100-pounder kind of thing, and he's coming down the tree. I guess I scared him. He went up the tree, and when he came down right to me, I know he just wants to get out of there. I just like,
Yeah,
get out of here! So I
yeah,
really I was just laugh, and then I was kicking myself. I was like, man, I should have grabbed my phone out when he was coming down and recorded this stuff. But
yeah.
oh,
There's something else for a critter, that's for sure.
they
All
are.
right. Well, John, listen, I loved your stories tonight. If you hear anything else, will you get a hold of me?
Oh, 100%. I really enjoyed myself here and had a great time. And yeah, if anybody wants to come up for a bear hunt and see what I see the. Oh, and if I could just add one thing, if you don't mind,
No, you
you
got
were
time. Go
talking.
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, we were just because it just came to me on that break. We're talking about just areas that they can be in. When you think about something for guys like in like Illinois, Indiana, place that when you guys think of the woods and you realize you go in, you're never going to get lost. You get in, you get out. You know what I mean? Up here, you take a wrong turn, your GPS goes dead, you lose your compass, you're gone. I mean, I know a man who he's been gone for 50 years. He's gone. We've never found him, and it was up in that area.
Yeah,
Um,
he's talking about Onyx, folks. You went to your electronic. You don't go up in the bush where it's real when it's dense as it is up in Canada or northern Minnesota. You always want to have a regular compass in your pack, and the reason is exactly electronic things fail and you can literally get turned around 15 yards in the bush and totally get lost. So that's great advice, John. I always have one in
Yeah,
my pack. Yeah.
yeah, so do I. And that's just goes to show when you're talking about vastness like that, anything can hide here, and I mean anything.
Yeah. Hey, Daryl Adams in Oklahoma. That sound that I played you earlier, that yell, that scream, that's Daryl. He's watching you right now, John. Daryl, he sent me. You guys need to get a hold of John up there at Big Woods Wilderness Outfitters in Manitoba. He has audio that's almost verbatim as yours. So you guys need to talk, Daryl, or have Tobin. You guys reach out to him. He would be a good interview for you for your documentaries. And Mark said it was a great story. Bigfoot on bear bait stations. I'm surprised they don't go for them. I don't know if they would, Jeff. Hey, Daryl, Jason, I have hunt with John, and he does a great job. Our group got 4 bears and 3 wolves.
Oh, Jason.
Yeah, Jason
Rule.
Rule.
Jason
Yeah,
Rule. All right, hey, Jason.
yeah,
How's it going, buddy?
yeah, Jason. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. All right, listen, John. Let me know if something else happens this fall. Get back with me, and we'll get you
I
back
will.
on and talk about it.
Hey, I'd love to do it. All right.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you very
right.
much, Dan.
Hey, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me at bigwoodshunting.com. Check out the website. It's well, that is the sorry, bigwoodshunting.com. And my email address, if you just want to email me, it's bigwoods wo@gmail.com.
All right, and you're on Facebook too, aren't you?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Uh, Always checking that stuff. So feel free to reach out any way you want. My phone numbers are all on there. Call me, my direct one. Use the toll-free one. Whatever you want to do. Be happy
Okay.
to talk to anyone. And happy to get anybody up for a hunt.
Okay, don't run off. Stay right there, John. All right, I'm going to
Okay.
get out of here, folks. That was a great show, and we're going to probably have a couple weeks break. I'm trying to line up a couple guests. Everybody's busy right now, but I'll let you know on Facebook or on the regular radio shows when we'll have another new one. So just stay tuned for more details. Thanks for listening tonight. It was a good show, and we'll talk to you next time. For our friends at Revelton Distillery, Onyx Hunt, and Game High Clothing, thanks for checking out Unknown Files tonight. We'll see you next time right here on the Outdoor Call Radio Network. I'm going to send it back to regular programming, and you enjoy the rest of your night. Good night, everybody.